Don't panic. Don't panic. It's going to be fine.
I've never held a
Snodford?
baby.
Oh, shut up, nigger. Just hush for a minute.
What's all this racket?
It's one bite off Caterpillar. She's feeling a bit poorly.
That's 30 seconds.
Shut up! I mean, shut up. And what was the world record for longest do again?
Snodford.
Oh, for God's sake. She's pregnant.
He's coming again.
And not for much longer, it'd seem.
Oh, damn. What are we going to do?
Don't panic.
Oh, you know what to do you? Seen a million kobold births, I expect.
Nah. Snod said that's my job.
Yeah, well, he was bricking it. Literally. Anyway, it's simple stuff. Harder to stop it than not at this point, so we're getting her into the living room.
What?
Well, I'm hoping it's prophetic. Hard to imagine dying in a god's living room.
This might be the worst thing you've ever done.
Second worst. I need you to watch her for 5 minutes while I get her parents.
What?
Back in a flash.
Snodford! Kutam ilunudis wamid. Welcome one and all to the bright green crate filled with bottles of ice-cold creature squeezings that we all call Mirrorgleam. I've managed to sneak away from the barnyard my living room has become. That's not a slur. The kobolds believe life draws life like magnets draw metal, so they filled it with farm animals. I can't move for the grunting, baying, squealing lot, and the animals aren't much better. On the fortress front, as you can see, we're picking up pretty much from where we left off, with the new additions of some wildlife that have blundered into our cages for the long since long gone, long-bearded gnomes. Just some elk, nothing massively interesting. But seeing as we've already begun the journey of our civilization's mastery over the wily mountain goat, we may as well take some stumbling steps toward the micro-moose while we're at it. Moods are still meh, though. I have discovered that's partially due to boredom from the drinks choice. As in there isn't any. It's plump helmet wine or well water. I won't be fixing that anytime soon, though. Oh, whoops, slight slip-up. We had this area carved out for sheep last episode, and it was pointed out in the comments that I'd need to replace the ceiling above with flooring to allow grass growth. I ended up digging around a section of ceiling and reducing the workload a tad, whilst reducing the animal count a tad more. The wool never bounces back. Oh dear. The sudden crushing of one of their sheepy brethren has apparently caused some alarm of a spiritual nature to arise in the rest of the flock. They've gathered in the small temple to make plaintive chewing sounds to any and all gods that will listen. Look, it's no use, you lot. Humans, dwarves, elves, even goblins and dogs make it into heaven, but not sheep. Never sheep. You're barred. Here you can see one of the elk that our dwarves have apparently trained enough to release from its cage. He's a big beastie, lots of meat, some interesting ornamentation in those antlers, and since we've got some breeding pairs, I figure we should be a little excited about having them, actually. They certainly fit the aesthetic, anyway. Now, with following the things around, I have discovered that we can perform the same sort of mental deep dives we've been doing on our dwarves, and so... He's somewhat fearful, though likes to brawl, quick to anger, but often feels discouraged. Does not easily fall in love, but ladies, once you've captured his heart, at least you know he'll try to keep his things orderly. His elk things. Moving on. In a desperate bid to counteract the rot stink occurrence number 2, it seems flattening a sheep doesn't stop it from going pongy, I have decided we will build off the big circle and have in fact already ordered the dwarves to dig out, smooth, and furnish a brace of bonny bedrooms. Which they jumped to immediately after I spent a real-world hour trying to find out why they weren't working on it before giving up, removing all job requests, deleting all tasks, and redoing everything. Only to realise I'd set the digging designations as low priority. You're looking now at completed bedrooms because I got distracted trying not to scream while they worked. Oh, and the keen-eyed of you who noted some dwarves re-smoothing suddenly unsmooth bits of floor, stop being so keen-eyed, you'll ruin the surprise. The one good bit of news from this whole venture is that it is enough to tip the scales and drag our dwarves from grumpy into being, if not happy, at least bashful or sneezy. Progress! Until I fiddle with leather making later, but my existence is nothing so more than bailing water with a sieve. Oh, and in one fell swoop, Inod shows her ineptitude and ruins the big circle surprise. Well done, Armour Inks. I'd feel more sorry for the crumpled mess that used to be her hand, but she's continuing to stand on the bit of floor she's digging out below her like a cartoon coyote on a canyon cliff edge. Dwarves. That's it, clean yourself off in the well water. I guess that cuts available drink types down to just the plump helmet wine. I can't imagine anybody is going to want to be on the Inod juice. If you're wondering why it's taking her so long to clean, just imagine attempting to dry yourself with a wet towel. But the water is blood, and the towel is Inod's still bleeding stump. Discovered her other hand at last. Now, we do not actually have a hospital in the fortress as of yet, but seeing as we've just set our dwarves up with some swanky new bedrooms, I might have an idea. For now, I would suggest you go and get some rest. But wrestling elk calves one-handed and sorting items is better than actively mining one-handed, I suppose. No, she listened to me! That or the blood loss has got to her. Probably the latter, let's be honest. How's she doing? Yeah, not too bad, I think. Hard to know without a doctor.
No need, doctor. Life. Find life.
This is Frank's statement no filter and sense of relief wet mattress. They're cat's parents.
You must be very excited.
Yes. Immaculate conception, very rare for kobolds.
What?
Good one, Frank. Yeah, right. Well, we're just going to go get more clean towels. Come on, Phlegm.
Snodford, what have you done?
Just keep walking.
Wait, Frank and Sense? Oh, no, you haven't. Snodford? Snodford! And here was my fantastic idea. We had this horrible little dormitory dug into the dirt of the mountain with 7 beds and 0 lighting. Seems almost too perfect for a dwarven infirmary. Inod is already in situ, awaiting ministrations from Mosus, who is happy to be finally working a trade he's actually trained in. Oh, no, it seems he has in fact already been. Works fast, I didn't even see him enter the room. So he evaluated her injuries and ascertained she's fractured a floating rib and ruptured her liver. A few points. Firstly, yes, I can tell the difference between a hand and a liver. I promise you her injuries did include her hand, but she's healed that with no assistance. Secondly, Inod has received sheep wool dressings on her liver. For this to happen, Mosus had to cut her open. But we've been rather quick of late to convert our thread into cloth, so, including the need for sutures within, she needs sutures without. Inod has so far spent the better part of a week with the ability to tickle the inside of one of her own organs. Now, I've got the dwarves off spinning, so hopefully Inod won't need to cough with a butterfly net by her bed for much longer. Oh, yes, she's gone. Sewn back up by Adil, of all people. Back to work already. Good woman, that dwarf. Speaking of our chief medical dwarf, I figured now would be a great time to do our deep dive. It's just him and us left. Mosus Inkglide is a very easy-going dwarf. He enjoys the company of others and likes helping them. He's slow to anger and doesn't experience strong urges or cravings. He does tend to hang on to grievances, but generally finds himself hopeful about the future. He's a clear-headed individual, somebody you'd want in a crisis and not normally easy to fool. So, how'd he end up here? Well now, that's down to his active imagination. As I've already mentioned, he was convinced to join the group by Shem, the wannabe bard extraordinaire. See, Mosus has always enjoyed the thought of saddling destiny, heading off into the white wilderness to the south and building a huge and thriving fortress that people would brave the dangers to find, only to be wowed by terra firma tamed. This is the tapestry Shem wove in Mr. Inkglide's mind. What he actually said was, do you want to build a snow fort? So I can't blame Shem personally, but there you are. And there he is. Bold in the picture because he's got a cloak and dwarven law forbids any dwarf to allow head hair to touch hood cloth. This law sensibly brought in after the great Velcro scalping of year 3. He's got his little mug on a string, which he's apparently sat on, and his ankle belts to stop wild weasels from nesting in his nether cap, which is a spare hat he keeps tucked into his waistband. Get your mind out of the gutter! Well, here it is, the beginnings of what I alluded to earlier. I want to control our animal population because, as you may have noticed, we now have reindeer amongst the elk and sheep, and they're only half trained, so they're bolting throughout the whole fort, interrupting the dwarves every few seconds. We've got butchery all set up with a fresh meat stockpile nearby to stop the rot, which I can spoil right away, just like the meat does. I don't know what it is about butchering, but I've never been able to process more than one animal at a time without somebody choking on my asthma at some point in the chain. I will be adding a tannery to deal with the hides, but again, with our dwarves busy doing whatever the snod it is they do when I'm not looking, I don't know how many of them will get successfully turned into usable leather. The hides, not the dwarves. Oh, Melville is back and taking the disguise a little bit far there. Encroaching on cultural appropriation, or you would be, if dwarven culture was based on physical appearance and not what type of clothes they know how to make. The worst part of this is she's kept her name the same. Mirrorgleam isn't blessed with anything close to genius, but we can remember a bloody name. Ah well, let's get to trade requests. A selection of different types of drink and some fish for variants. It doesn't fix our issues till next year, of course, but maybe we'll see berries fruiting soon and that'll tide us over. Canyon Humour wants splints. I'm sure they're asking everybody, but surely you'd look around on the way up and strike woody things off the list. And back to Melville. Was satisfied improving negotiation and intimidation. Give us splints or else, was it? Balmy. Anyway, best you be getting back to your coconuts and grass skirts before your tan fades. Me, I hope it's a tan. Now, here you can see... Phlegm, it's happening, come on! I told you I'm not doing it. Really? You're gonna miss out on a miracle because of a few silly coincidences.
It's nearly time.
So Snods says. What have you got there?
Ma!
Ma!
mould remover. I keep telling you about the damp patch in the living room. Can't have that there with the baby coming.
What was that? Oh, calm down. It's just a family dog. Right. Grr. Mould, frankincense, and grr. Now, Phlegm, wait. I'm not doing it.
It's okay, Mr. Grip.
It's bloody January. She needs our help. Then go help. I'll be in here doing serious work. Come on, Graham. They don't do immaculate anyway. Take a look at my vase. Back with the dwarves. You've been watching my attempt at a de-stressing New Year's party. Well, New Year adjacent anyway. All it's really done is create a happiness gulf between the happiest and grumpiest, but maybe we can work on the others later. Yes. Moving on. Straight on, in fact, to Ast Handelbold, the final dwarf in Mirrorgleam to receive a deep dive. Now our secondary miner, Ast was brought along as smith and furnace operator and 6 years in has become completely convinced of his own worthlessness. He tends to assume the worst, isn't inherently proud of his talents or accomplishments, has a greedy streak and doesn't try to get things done perfectly. Despite all this, he can be very happy and optimistic, has a deep well of patience, great intuition, sharp intellect, and he doesn't really care about anything anymore. What I'm saying is, Ast is quite clearly bipolar. Well, here he is, raising his mead horn with trepidation in his Wambler fur mittens. As bad a time as he's having here, I can't imagine the feckless Shem can be blamed over much. Ast is one of those who could be miserable in a jacuzzi with a chocolate milkshake, which is understandable given his sensitivity to chlorine and lactose intolerance. He wasn't told why they were coming to the Mirror of Destiny, but equally he didn't ask. He goes through being impersonable and straight out the other side to easy going. And he has, of course, been integral in the Big Circle project, which we're going to take a look at next. Here it is, littered with boulders, all smooth, but still missing integral ornamentation in the form of limestone block flooring. Going up a floor, we can see a second Z-level dug out and defloored with minimal pain and injury. And this is the plan. We'll keep staring up, working our way through the rock to the frozen shelf above, whereupon a separate building task can begin, something I am very excited to not tell any of you about. Future plans, future plans! Mirrorgleam was always supposed to be more than just a dirty hole in the side of the Mirror of Destiny. This fort will be a beacon in the white wastes, shining in the night sky like a crystal star. No matter what our dwarves may think or expect. I was wandering through the fort, enjoying the steadily bettering moods of our dwarves, when I came across the fortress dog, Idar. She's been spending more and more time in the temple of late, which I think is because of all the fighting. Here she is, and a more stitched-together looking little war machine I have never seen. She's kept us safe from reindeer, elk, falcons, and gnomes. Incidentally, Idar just means dog in dwarvish. I've mentioned we aren't overflowing with genius. And that's your lot. We've been at Mirrorgleam for 6 years now. The milkmen have settled down to the idea of settling down, and though I don't think we've seen the end to all of their lawless ways, I do think they're ready to make something of this beautiful white mountain. And with a good grasp of who's who, I think it's safe now to maybe invite others to the fort. Many hands make light work and all that. But that's for next time. John wants you all to know that illness has continued into the new year, and so delivering specials is just not happening. He apologizes, but at least you're still getting me, eh? I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Like, comment, subscribe, check the Discord and the Patreon if you're so inclined. And I'll see you all next time. Anu Zeshon, you most wonderful of individuals. Anus Eshon.
No, she's precious.
Yeah. Hey, Phlegm, wanna see? They named her after us. Really? Mr. Crevice, meet Flick Bogey Strong Wind.
Strong wind.
Shut up.
Oh. Happy birthday, Flick.